Good evening. Wow.
One of the microphones is on somewhere. Scott and Cindy, you were both on mute.
We are on mute. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
No, that's good. Thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Nikhil, could you read the land acknowledgement, please?
We pay respect to the Algonquin people, who are the traditional guardians of this land. We acknowledge their long-standing relationship with this territory, which remains unceded. We respect to all Indigenous people in this region, from all nations across Canada who call Ottawa home. We acknowledge the traditional knowledge keepers, both young and old, and we honor the courageous leaders, past, present, and future.
Thank you. Ms. Donnie, can you lead us in prayer, please?
If you join me in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Loving God, you have given us innumerable blessings, the gifts of life, love, laughter, friendship, and family. We thank you for the abundance of your blessings to us, especially as we have just celebrated Thanksgiving. We thank you, Lord, for the love of our family, our colleagues, our friends, and most especially your love, poured out to us in Christ Jesus. We pray that we may be signs of your love to all whom we meet. We pray these things in the name of Jesus, your Son. And we ask and remember in our prayers the following persons who have passed away. Dr. Peter McInerney, former trustee of the Algonquin and Lakeshore Catholic District School Board. Marianne Ming-Yun Cho, mother of Dave Cho, finance officer in the Community and Continuing Education Department. And Jonathan Boucher, cousin of Stephen Boucher, CSPA co-chair. We ask that all of these people and their families and friends are kept in our prayers. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please stand for the national anthem. Welcome everyone. We have a delegation this evening. I would ask if Juliana Bisnet, could come forward. Hi, I'm just going to read a preamble and then we'll start. We have a delegation from Campaign Life Coalition. Ms. Juliana Bisnet. She will make a presentation. Please come to the table in a moment. I'll ask you to introduce yourself and identify the organization that you're representing and to confirm that you're a Catholic ratepayer in the City of Ottawa. You'll have 3 minutes to make your presentation. You'll be informed when 1 minute remaining and when your time is up. At the end of the presentation, I will ask trustees if there are any questions for clarification. For those in attendance tonight and those online, please note that this delegation will address abortion, a topic that will evoke strong emotions and differing viewpoints. Please be mindful of your well-being regarding these matters that are being discussed and that sensitive subject. Ms. Bissonnette, you may now introduce yourself, then begin with your presentation.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Julia Bissonnette. I am the Ottawa Region Youth and Activism Coordinator for Campaign Life Coalition, and I am here to invite you to the National March for Life taking place May 8th, 2025 on Parliament Hill. I am also a part of the organizing committee of the National March for Life, and year after year, our organizing committee has been successful in organizing peaceful pro-life demonstration that welcomes thousands of pro-life Canadians from all walks of life, including families, children, seniors, and school-aged youth from across the country to our nation's capital. With the culture of death looming over impressionable youth, it is essential that we spread the pro-life message in our schools, youth groups, communities, and society at large. To ensure children in the womb, mothers and fathers are protected from the violence that is abortion. Young people must be educated on the reality of abortion and must understand its harms involved both physically, spiritually, and emotionally. The March for Life Week in Ottawa serves as ample opportunity to gather in prayer and fellowship for a common cause, the sanctity of all human life from conception until natural death. This week not only shapes a fruitful culture of life, but also serves to educate and inspire youth to further consider moral questions such as personhood, God's plan for human sexuality, and what it means to live a fully alive in our shared faith. The National March for Life is also an opportunity for students to learn about civic engagement, the Canadian government, ethics, and philosophy in relation to the events at which they are present. Throughout the week, students will be granted an opportunity to hear from inspiring speakers with moving testimonies and experts in a variety of fields. Not to mention the safety of the March for Life is our central priority. We work closely with the Ottawa Police and Parliamentary Protective Services to ensure the utmost safety and protection of our demonstrators. The March has all the legal permits required and licensing necessary for a demonstration of its kind. The police are in attendance and they decide which routes will be taken in order to ensure the safety of all participants. Additionally, paramedics are present on Parliament Hill in the event of injury, especially for our senior attendees. We also know that the National March for Life has saved lives. Many young people are deceived by the abortion industry on social media and through their peers, leading them to reject the sanctity of life. Many Catholic high school students are ignorant to the intrinsic value of human life in the womb. This must change. Abortion reaps generational damage, not only on the preborn child who is violently killed, but on the women and men involved as well. Students are ignorant to the pro-life position are vulnerable to abortion themselves. The evening and day following the March for Life, hundreds of students will gather at the Ottawa Conference and Events Centre for the Pro-Life Youth Summit and Banquet. The students are treated to musical entertainment, a delicious 3-course meal, and afterwards a dynamic speaker shares his or her encouraging testimony and teaches students how to utilize their voices to defend the most vulnerable members of society and make a difference in their homes, schools, and communities. We are requesting that students and staff participate in the National March for Life and its related events this year, including the Live On Summit and Banquet, Candlelight Vigil at the Human Rights Monument. For a complete list of events and information, we have all that information up on marchforlife.ca. Additionally, a school planning guide can be provided upon request with more details about ticket pricing, budgeting, fundraising, booking hotels, and buses. We also ask that students of the Ottawa Catholic District School Board join us in the important life-affirming and life-changing event. Invite students to become voices for the voiceless as we remain unwavering in our pursuit to protect all human life at this year's National March for Life and related events. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Trustees, do you have any questions of clarification? Trustee Witt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just as part of your preamble, you were looking for confirmation that the delegation is a ratepayer. Just wondering if you could seek confirmation of that.
Do you live in the city of Ottawa and are a practicing Catholic?
Yes, I'm a practicing Catholic. I live in Ottawa and I attend St. Mary's on Yonge Street regularly for Mass.
Thank you, Chair.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. Can you leave a copy with the Secretary, please? Thank you. I erred to introduce Trustee Phelan and Trustee Simpson that are joining us virtually. Can I have a mover for the approval of the agenda, please? Trustee Whitted and Trustee Coburn. That the agenda of the regular board meeting of October 15, 2024 be approved as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item E, student school departmental profile. A memo from the superintendent of student services, intermediate and secretary, caring for others. Superintendent Kelly, Ms. Keogh, Ms. Ashton, Jade, Lola, and Kamasi. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's my pleasure to welcome a large group this evening. Susan Keogh, teacher at Immaculata High School, Jody Ashton, principal at Corpus Christi School, along with Jade and Lola, who are students from Immaculata, and Kamesi, who is a student at Corpus Christi. And they are joining us to provide an overview of Immaculata's Grade 10 Caring for Others Focus program. And I will turn things over to the group to share their experience.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and the Board of Trustees. We're here to highlight Immaculata's Caring for Others program. Our collaboration focuses on several key areas: well-being and social-emotional learning, Indigenous and outdoor education, and bringing those lessons into the classroom. Through these experiences, students develop empathy, critical thinking, respect, and other vital life skills. Corpus Christi is proud to help Immaculata nurture such compassionate and engaged future leaders, and this program truly embodies what it means to be community. I'd like to introduce the incredible lead MAC educator, Sue Kehoe, who along with Jade, Lola, and Kamasi will expand what really enriches this program.
Thank you again for giving us the opportunity to highlight our program this evening. As mentioned, I'm Susan Kehoe. I started the program at Immaculata, and I'm currently facilitating the 9th group of grade 10 students to go through the program. I am passionate about teaching through experiences and feel very, very blessed to be able to watch the youth in my class grow and develop over the 10 months that they're with me. So let me tell you a little bit about how this program works. Firstly, it's open to all grade 10 students, regardless of their pathway or the language of instruction, whether it be French or English, as half of the classes are offered bilingually. Students are in the program all year long, half a day each semester. They earn 4 different credits: English at whatever level they are learning at, and then healthcare, careers and civics, and religion. So just to wrap up this next slide, please. Much of the learning in this program is project-based, cross-curricular, collaborative, hands-on, experiential, with lots of field trips. So it really is a pack of deep learning. I'll now let Jade, Lola, and Kamasi give you some examples of this learning in action.
Good evening. So throughout the entire slideshow, you'll see these 10 gray banners. These have the core values of the program, which are the foundation of the experience and are as well are linked to the curriculum. All of this begins in the classroom where we read the book called Out of My Mind. This teaches us compassion, dignity, and inclusion, and we carry these throughout the rest of our work. And our work begins within our own school. We start this off with the Terry Fox Walk, where we cheer on people while they run, and the inclusion class, where we'll plan activities for them, for parties for the holidays, or just to be their friend during lunch. And we do similar things with the 7th graders, where we'll plan holiday activities for them, and we'll just be their older sibling as they figure out high school. So our community partnerships, the first one is Assumption Elementary School, and the work we do there is similar to Corpus Christi Elementary School, which we'll talk about more in the future slides, as well as a new partnership with St. Paul's University, where there's a social innovation workshop once a month where a professor will help the students with one community project. And the rest of the partnerships we'll talk about in the future slides.
All right, good evening. My name is Lola, and I'm going to be going more into depth on Corpus Christi, which is the school that I worked at. And to start off, we did lots of projects, which is very project-based. So we designed, our final project was teaching the whole class of young students a lesson on social emotional learning. So I got to work and build an entire presentation involving a puppet show, I'm sure you can see in the slideshow, as well as some coloring pages to teach the students how to regulate their emotion. And in addition to that, I got to work on a day-to-day basis with two students in particular who were both special needs students, and I developed a very close relationship with both of them and watched them grow and make new friends, and it was a really wonderful experience. Moving on to the second semester, we worked more outdoors, focusing more on Indigenous teachings, reconciliation, and teaching the young students respect and admiration for Indigenous culture. So we did lots of art activities, we had special speakers come in, and again, me and other students got to design a whole outdoor activity where we did scavenger hunts and built projects that really taught the students hands-on skills. So we were hands-on in our learning, and then we taught them how to learn hands-on as well.
Hello, my name is Kamasi and I am a student at Corpus Christi. I liked having the Immaculata students come into our school. The students in my class were really excited to see them, and I really enjoyed getting to know them. The Immaculata students were fun and easier to talk to than the teacher. They would help the teacher prepare fun projects for us and would help make sure all the students knew what they were doing. They really liked it when they came into our English class and would read with us. Thank you for listening to me talk about how much I love the Caring for Others program.
One of our final work placements, which took place during the second semester, is Pearly Health, which is an old age home and care center. Me and our class got to work through the entirety of the second semester, where we got to bring down the elderly and old age towards to have ice cream. Me and my friend Jade, we worked with a particular couple where we brought them down every week to meet each other. They'd been married for almost 4 decades and were both visually impaired. And this was the only time during the week they got to see each other. So me and Jade were blessed with the opportunity to bring them together. And in addition, we also got to learn lots of organizational skills, how to manage them, how to manage their time. One of the couple I worked with had a physiotherapy appointment, so making sure we kept track of all their appointments for them, we were with them. And overall, it was a really wonderful experience. I got to learn a lot, both emotionally and, of course, more logically and pragmatically.
So for Parkdale Food Center, we visit 3 times during the year. The first one is a workshop on food security, and we learn how it impacts quality of life and how it can affect so many people just here in Ottawa. The second visit we make is for the Minnesota grocery store. Here, first we set up the grocery store with produce and shopping carts, which is a unique system, because instead of neighbors just being handed a bag of paper food, which might not fit their cultural or dietary needs, they are able to pick their own food when they're in need. The third visit we make there is where we actually cook them lunch, where half the class will make a 3-course meal for the neighbors, and the other half the class which I participate in, we serve the neighbors this lunch. This helps us bring back to the 2 core values of humanity with teamwork and serving others, and the way that we love and support and bring back dignity to each individual. So some of the benefits of this program are the real world experiences that we have, and the things that we're able to now put on our resume with career training, with the career day at Pearly, where we got to talk with professionals about their careers.
And then it also teaches character. As we mentioned, there are multiple different characters we have to learn about, so empathy and compassion. It builds lots of relationships, not only amongst students, but also amongst members of the community. As I mentioned, I worked with an old age couple and 2 students. And it supports groups in the community, so we worked at Parkdale Food Center. We gave them help with their mission. And finally, it presents youth in a positive light. We all know youth don't always come off too good sometimes, so it was really nice to put a good foot forward and to show that we can do some good for our community. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening. I'm so proud of these 2 graduates of my program who gave up, numerous lunch hours to put together this presentation. And it's so nice to have one of the youngsters from Corpus Christi join us today too. We're all very proud of the program, and I want to thank, again, the opportunity to present it to you. And if you have any questions, I'm sure the young ladies would be happy to answer.
Thank you. Someone's got a microphone on. No? I just got the lucky microphone in the room, don't I? Thank you very much for your presentation. As you can see, there's a lot of enthusiasm there and that you care about what you're doing, so thank you very much. At the end of the questions that I'm going to ask the trustees have, we're going to take a picture up front. So I'd ask the parents can go back to their seats, and we'll line up here, and there'll be time to take pictures in a few minutes. And I have a gift for each one of the students. Questions or comments? Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much for testing the microphone. I have 2 questions, if that's okay. First question is for Jade and Lola. In grade 10, you're given an opportunity at leadership in your school and in your community, really. How has that changed how you want your education in the courses that you've picked for yourself or where you see your careers going?
So, through you, Mr. Chair, I found that it's really inspired me to chase after the kind of learning experience I wanted. And now this year, going back to the classroom, it almost feels like it kind of falls flat, not being able to go out and do interesting things. And I'm really interested in medicine, and I got to meet a doctor in person, and that was wonderful. So I really hope in the future we get to have at least more experts and more hands-on experiences, like go to a hospital if you're interested in medicine, or go to a police station if you're interested in law or law enforcement. So I think having those more, at least couple more hands-on experiences would be very valuable.
Well, I think after working at Pearly Health with Marsha and Butch, I found that I really love medicine and that in the future I would like to be a doctor. So now I'm doing more science-based classes at school. That's what I like.
And my second question is for Kamisi. Did I say that right? Okay, so now, grade 10 is a long time away. That's like twice your age. Do you think this would be a course you would want to take? That maybe your teacher should keep it around?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Well, no. It would be too hard.
Oh, I think you can handle it.
That wasn't the answer you were expecting, was it? Any other questions or comments? Trustee Warren.
Thanks, through Mr. Chair. It's more of just a comment. We see a lot of presentations here all the time. You guys put a lot of thought and effort into this for sure. You're definitely great public speakers I know it's nerve-wracking being in front of us doing this, but I just wanted to say it was a great presentation and you presented it really well.
Trustee Phelan, Trustee Simpson.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Why not, Mark? If you ask me to say something, I might as well say something, right? But I just want to say, just thank you for presenting tonight. You're truly an inspiration for helping others that might not be able to help themselves. And looking at some of these pictures that we see out here tonight that you shared with us, it's a true testament to all the hard work that you put in. And just want to continue to thank you for helping. Continue to put your hand up. Continue to volunteer. And thank you again for coming out tonight. We really do appreciate it.
Just a quick question that I'd like to ask the girls. First of all, I concur with Trustee Phelan that this is an awesome program and they've done an awesome job. I was just wondering that if there are other students that came up to them and asked them what the program was about, and would they highly recommend it, what might they say to other students so that other students could have an idea of what this program was all about?
I think I would say it's very hands-on, as I mentioned. So a lot of students get very bored in the classroom. Obviously, it's a lot of time listening. So I really mentioned that you're really doing something. You not only get the reward immediately because you're actually doing it, but it keeps you engaged. So it's much harder to become distracted, basically. And if you really want to make a difference in your community, you're really interested in volunteering or medicine or any field involving help people, or if you even want to just discover yourself, helping people is a way to do that. So it really has something for everybody. You're guaranteed to find what you want in this program. Thank you.
I would agree with you 100% that I feel it's very important, and the message that I translated to my kids was you're part of the community and you're a better part of the community for giving back to it. And my kids do that, so it's nice to see that they do give back. self-satisfaction, as you said, and the learning of the different opportunities. And you got your volunteer hours in at the same time? Got your papers all signed? There we go. Any other questions or comments? It's Michael.
Well, just building up on what Trustee Warren said, I love how you guys are really articulated when you guys are speaking. I love the presentation. You guys are very enthusiastic. And I'm looking forward to this program maybe potentially coming in the future to maybe my school, maybe Carinia's school, maybe all our schools. Because this seems like a really good program to develop social learning skills, experiment with different communities, able to communicate, and able to develop the skills in real life scenarios. So, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for saying that. We would absolutely love to share our program with other schools, and I think it could work anywhere because there are seniors' homes, there are elementary schools, there's need everywhere. So that would be wonderful. Thanks for bringing that up.
Karina.
I just wanted to ask, like, the volunteering and like the time that you dedicate to your community, was that done like solely during like school hours, or did you dedicate like a lot of time outside of school for this too?
Through you, Mr. Chair. All of the volunteering was done during school hours, yes.
There were occasional opportunities to do extra, but the majority of it was done during school hours, is correct.
Trustee Woodard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Superintendent Kelly, have we looked at replicating this program at other schools, and what sort of, your thoughts on being able to do that, and maybe the cost implications to the system to pilot this at a couple of the locations around the system?
And through you, Mr. Chair, certainly there's formulations of this kind of a program at a number of our schools, but we do have a consultant for experiential learning that works full-time with school groups to look at establishing these kind of partnerships and working with organizations in the community while the kids are learning. And certainly our principals do an ideal job together within families of schools to ensure that there's connections among the elementary schools as well as the high schools. So there's certainly examples of this going on in a lot of schools within the board.
Any last questions? Mover and seconder, please. Trustee Lukatic-Byers and Trustee Moore. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Student Success Intermediate Secondary dated October 9, 2024, entitled Caring for Others, be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'm going to ask you all come to the front now, and we, Trustee Lukatic-Byers, myself, have a gift for the ladies. 2024 be adopted as presented. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. There's no unfinished business from previous meetings. Item I, presentation and consideration of committee reports and student trustee reports. Committee of the Whole Board, October 15, 2024. There was one motion passed that I just need. It was moved by Trustee Melito, seconded by Trustee Coburn, that the memorandum from the Superintendent of Human Resources dated October 8, 2024, entitled Non-Affiliated Management Professional and Support Group Terms and Conditions be received, and that the changes to the employment terms and conditions with the non-affiliated management professional and support group as outlined in the memo as presented be approved. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 2, memo from the Director of Education, read parent involved committee minutes of May 14, 2024. Associate Director Duncan, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, they're to be received.
Thank you. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Melito and Trustee McEwen. That the memorandum from the Director of Education dated October 10, 2024 and report entitled Parent Involvement Committee Minutes of May 14, 2024 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 3, memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services, SEAC minutes of June 19, 2024. Superintendent Ben.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. These are for receipt.
Thank you. Mover, please. Trustee Moore. Trustee Lukatic-Byers. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated October 1st, 2024 and entitled Special Education Advisory Committee Minutes of June 19, 2024 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services read nomination request from the Association Representation for the Down Syndrome Association, the nomination of Laura Holler to the Special Education Advisory Committee. Superintendent Ben.
This is for receipt.
Thank you. Mover. Trustee Whitted. Seconder. Trustee Warren. The memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated October 7, 2024 entitled Nomination Request Association Representation for the Down Syndrome Association. Nomination of Laura Holler, Special Education Advisory Committee be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 6, memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services, nomination request Association Representation, Autism Ontario, nomination of Erica Thrift Kayard for SEAC. Superintendent Ben.
For receipt as well.
Thank you. Mover, please. Trustee McEwen. And Trustee Lukatic-Byers. Sorry. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated September 24, 2024 entitled Nomination Request Association Representation for the Autism Ontario. Nomination of Erica Thrift Kayard for SEAC be received. All in favor? Sorry?
Just a quick point of order. Are we being asked to approve the nomination? If we are, it should be approved, not received, just in the language.
I think one said approved and the other one said received.
Yeah.
You're correct on that.
Just minor detail, but just want that cleared up in the minutes.
Superintendent Ben?
My understanding is that they are to be received.
Received. Did I say approved by mistake? for receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Presentation and consideration of staff or trustee reports, memo from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services re Summer Mental Health Programs 2024. Welcome back, Superintendent Benton, Dr. Bolduc, and Ms. Prichette. Welcome.
Good evening. Again, I'm very pleased to welcome Dr. Richard Bolduc, our mental health and well-being lead, as well as Jennifer Pritchett, our principal for special education and student services, who both coordinated a variety of summer programs over the summer months of July and August. In their presentation, they will share an overview of these programs and professional development sessions that were created and facilitated by our staff. I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you. Good evening, and it's with pride this evening that we're presenting our special education and student services summer programs, mental health supports, and summer camps. There was a lot of things going on, including some projects in supporting student transitions. So I will pass it over to Ms. Pritchett, who will explain a bit more details in the slides that will follow. Next slide, please.
So we skipped one back. Perfect. Crew, there it is. This is one of my favorites, the summer crew program. So this is usually provided as an after-school program, but with the summer funding, we were able to adapt the program and offer it over the summer. So it was provided as a 3-week program in July, serving students from across the OCSB. And CREW actually stands for Communication, Relationship, Empathy, and Wellness. So there were 4 sites at St. Elizabeth's School. Thank you. St. Elizabeth's School, St. Michael, Ottawa, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and St. Rose of Lima. And this was done in collaboration with the summer learning program that was offered through the Continuing Education Department. So we were at the same sites as that program, and there we were able to have more inclusive activities and with the students joining together with the other program for activities and field trips, which was also very exciting. The focus of the program was on social play, skills related to engaging in the various levels of interactive play with other children, joint attention, so skills that involve showing shared interest or enjoyment, and social language, skills related to using language to respond to, initiate, and maintain various levels of social interaction. We also offered a variety of programs to support transitions to return to school. So these were done right at the end of August and through September. In-person transition meetings were offered for parents and students so that they could meet resource teachers and EAs before school started. Schools, students, and parents were reconnected after the summer and planned for the transition to ensure that students' supports were in place to start the school year. The visits tended to be large group visits, often at the secondary school level, and individual or small group visits for elementary students. And as well, we also offered short-term EA support funding through these budgets through the month of September in order to support students as they develop independence and while facing the challenges of starting up a new school year. So by allocating these short-term resources, the intention was to support the schools to address student needs immediately and foster a positive and supportive learning environment for the entire school year.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we also, and I'll name a few of these community summer partnerships that we had. First of all, with Busy Minds and the mental health worker support, where 77 were recommended and 62 students registered for it. We also had a partnership with LDAO, which is the Learning Disabilities Association of Ottawa, and it's called the Sunshine Camp that's been around for many years. We had 30 students support there. We also had an association with Crossroads Summer Camp with 16 students. With the Robert Smart Summer Camp, we offered, unfortunately, that we weren't able to follow through with that, but it was still offered, and also with the Mental Health Workers Summer Learning Program with over 120 students that attended. Just to return back on the Busy Minds Camp, it was a wonderful association. It was done interdepartmentally here with special education, student services in collaboration with with continuing and community education. So a nod to Superintendents Benton and Velati and the work that was done through the people that were involved in those departments. We were excited to offer free summer camp opportunities to OCSB students. We collaborated with Busy Minds Education to offer summer camp programming for children ranging between the ages of 5 to 12 years of age. Basically, there was 2 separate camps that took place. They were available during the months of August, and 2 mental health workers were providing Tier 1 services to the camp members. Where this was at Immaculate High School, and those weeks were between August 6th and 9th and between the 12th and 16th. The purpose of it was to reduce barriers to accessing traditional camp programs. We were also focusing on installing and putting in place some mental health supports to the students in the sense of Tier 1, providing strategies for good mental health and well-being. And again, the looking to greater expansion and a test ground for next year if the ministry were to allocate funds to continue this programming given the success that was met this summer. And then there were summer writing projects that took place, and this was focusing around our special education and student services interdisciplinary staff, including there was addiction counseling, there was behavior analysts that were involved, there was a principal, of course, a psychologist, 3 social workers, and I could keep going to name a few. But it was focused on the development of resources to support schools in communicating about the importance of school attendance, the creation of group curriculum and resources to support high school-aged young men, the development of guidelines to support schools in implementing positive behavior supports, and of course the creation of psychoeducational video modules to support parents of anxious students. And then through ongoing different projects, there was also multi-departmental work that took place with educators, principals, clinicians, of course, and chaplaincy was also involved. The focus was on integrating, for instance, one of the documents was integrating chaplaincy and mental health initiatives, given the overlap of services, and working together collaboratively, building healthy relationships with school communities across the OCSB, with the social emotional learning modules, and we created a strategy that's ongoing. Also working around outdoor well-being education, a continuum in harmony, looking at projecting between 2024 and 2027, again, ongoing developments with different departments. And of course, the 2024 VTRA protocol renewal that has to be looked at, and we've worked not just in our board, but with all other boards as well, and that continues. And finally, focusing on AI and mental health initiatives, and this is an ongoing development as well. So that sums up our summer projects through you, Mr. Chair, so we're open to questions. Oh, just to clarify, VTRA means Violence Threat Risk Assessment, a model that's been in our board for several years now. So just to clarify.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments, please? Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much to you, Mr. Chair. Principal Pritchard, I want to say I really like the way that you guys are meeting students where they are, helping moving them forward to independence. That's huge. That's a big deal in their lives. And it caught my attention was the 71 EAs that you allow through September. And if you could explain to me, please, because I know caring doesn't stop with school reorganization. And when that happens, that's not sometimes a September 30 date line. So how do you mitigate the changes that happen?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So the short-term EA support that we offered through the summer budgets was what we used to fund that in September. But then you're right, we do still see continued needs throughout the year. So in addition, we continue the short-term EA budget and funding throughout the school year, and we have various means for schools to access that support. So in particular, it can support students who have changing medical needs. So when the student has an acute medical need that probably won't be ongoing, such as, let's say, a broken leg, they might need to be in a wheelchair for a period of time, then the school can apply for short-term EA support through those funds. We also support transitions, so the school year doesn't wait for us, but kids don't necessarily all start in September. So sometimes we have new students who arrive in October, February, anytime during the year. So when that happens, schools can also reach out to the department to access short-term educational assistance support to support students that are arriving at different times in the year and get them set up in the similar ways we would in September for success throughout the year. And then we also have short-term EA support that can access either budget to hire additional support or itinerant EAs. We have itinerant EAs with the department that are full-time staff members. And when a school sees a particular need that might be escalated for a student, whether it's that they're going through a particularly challenging time or there's been a change in their life or something's happening that they might need perhaps some more targeted interventions or a safety plan and some additional support to implement that programming and get them on a good path, then schools can also request short-term EA support through that.
Is there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Moore, Trustee Lepetitch-Byers. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Special Education and Student Services dated September 24, 2024, entitled Summer Mental Health Programs 2024 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 2, memo from the Superintendent of Student Success Intermediate Secondary and Superintendent of Student Success Elementary, re-EQAO. Welcome, Superintendent Kelly, Superintendent Montgomery, and Ms. Barango. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Superintendent Kelly and myself are joined tonight by our researcher, Dr. Lauren Figueredo, who will give you an overview of our school board's EQAO results tonight. Dr. Figueredo will also share some considerations when analyzing the results. Following this overview, Superintendent Kelly and myself will provide some next steps and we'll be happy to answer any questions you'll have. Pass it over.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I'll briefly walk through the data slides and then provide some commentary around data interpretation. So you can see here we have the 2024 EQAO primary results for the province and OCSB. And overall, in all 3 subject areas, reading, writing, and math, the board result this year was higher for percentage of students achieving the provincial standard than the provincial result. Next slide, please. For the 2024 junior results at the end of grade 6, you can see here that generally the reading and writing results for both the board and province are in the 80s, and then we do have that relatively lower performance for mathematics, 52 at the board level and 50 at the provincial level. For the 2024 grade 9 mathematics assessment, which students participate in at the end of the semester, at the end of the math course, the board is roughly on par with the provincial result, 57% and 54% respectively achieving the standard this year. And lastly, the 2024 OSSLT literacy test, which is a requirement of the high school diploma for first-time eligible students who typically participate in grade 10. Both of the results are in the high 80s. It's percent of students that passed or were successful on the test. And for students previously eligible, we have 46 and 52% at the board and provincial level, respectively. So just very briefly, some considerations here. Obviously, the effects of the pandemic and the disruption in learning will continue to affect the standardized testing. There was new curricula introduced in 2020 and 2021 for math and last year for the language arts curriculum. And since the pandemic pause and the resumption of these tests, the EQAO test has moved to the online testing platform, and so that involves a variety of built-in functions for all students, including the text-to-speech.
And then I'll also provide just very briefly some comments around interpretation. So the EQAO results in general can be situated within the context of international tests such as the PISA, which is also resumed administration. So in the 2022 cycle, for example, we continue to see challenges with lower performance in the area of mathematics. So the pandemic didn't obviously create that literacy math gap, but it's certainly being exacerbated. The TIMS is another international test which is especially focused on mathematics, and those results will be released at the end of the year. Another point to mention is that EQAO is considered to be a trailing indicator, which means that it generally lags behind, as other standardized tests do in picking up change at the systemic level. It's kind of like taking yesterday's temperature today. So researchers are suggesting that as time progresses and we move out of early post-pandemic times, that we will start to see changes in future iterations. Another point to note is that EQAO publicly reports the year-over-year trend typically, which we know has inherent percentage fluctuations. To balance this, we typically look at the cohort tracking analysis, so that looks at the same group or cohort of students and how they do over time, and we'll have those results starting next year. At the end of spring, at the end of the academic year this spring, our first post-pandemic cohort will write EQAO for a second point in time. And then finally, I'll just mention that EQAO recommends that their data be used for things like system-level planning and school-level planning, but in terms of progress monitoring for individual students, that more appropriate data sources at the local level, such as classroom assessments and more timely student work, be used to support learning goals for individual students.
And Dr. Figueredo does a great job of letting us know where we are now, does a great deal of work in terms of looking at that data. EQAO makes some general data available to us immediately, and we work immediately to take a look at that and see what we want to do and what we need to do in terms of next steps. So we were able to discuss those board results with our principals as part of our student achievement planning day that we had with them. So there was an opportunity immediately to let them know where some of our conditions lay and things that we needed to move that forward. And these discussions around results have translated into immediate plans for professional learning among our educators. And an example of this is our professional development for all our grade 7 and 8 math teachers. So that was something that we wanted to take a look at. It's not one of the fundamental EQAO assessment years, being 3, 6, or 9, but we recognize that we have work to do leading up to that phase for students. So this is something that we looked at. We wanted to ensure a consistent approach, an educated approach among our teachers at the grade 7 and 8 levels. So that's something an activity that we've identified for our upcoming professional development day, an opportunity to work with these teachers, looking at where we are in grade 6 as we transition students through 7 and 8 into the grade 9 year.
Additionally at the board level, so we're having more discussions around EQAO test familiarity. So because the test is fully online, we feel that test readiness would certainly help prepare the students to answer multiple choice type questions in an online environment. So this may be new to some students and, to be honest, even some educators. We'd like to spend more time preparing both educators and students on practicing these style of questions in an online environment. So we also hired an additional K-6 literacy consultant for many reasons, but one of the reasons was because the recommendations made in the Right to Read. Rightly so, there has been much attention on grades kindergarten to grade 2 over the past 2 years and learning about the science of reading. Much of our human resources went to support this important initiative and will continue to do so in the upcoming years. So the second consultant will spend more time in helping prepare EQAO reading comprehension grade 3 and up to grade 6 in terms of our K to 6 ESSD department. So we needed the additional help because all of the attention was on to K to 2 as it should have been. And I will pass it over to you.
So I mentioned the general work we did with principals at the board level in terms of our student achievement plan, but we also sent principals back to school with some specific expectations around developing their own school-based SAPS student achievement plan. So we mandated certain expectations around EQAO scores and set those goals for individual schools. So they have the capacity to develop strategies to address those issues, but the goals we wanted consistently across all of our schools, and not just at the grade 3, 6, 9, and 10 level, but across all grades, so that there's a consistent effort toward improvement in these areas. We also look at professional learning opportunities such as Lunch and Learns, which provide an opportunity to work with educators, as Shelley mentioned, about test-taking supports for students. It's where our central staff comes in. We work with them centrally, our consultants and learning partners. They then go into the schools and work with our staff to ensure that students are getting that concentrated practice on that test taking. And an additional strategy are the EQAO weekly tips that are provided by the ministry, specific to language, literacy, as well as our math focus through our Math Achievement Action Plan. So the ministry does provide those resources to us, and we take a look at them and provide them back to schools in a way that they can use them with their students. So that's a summary of some of the next steps that we're looking at in the immediacy, and we would be happy to take any questions if you've got some.
Trustee Wood and Trustee Lukatuk-Byers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation to all of you. I'll start by saying, in a much less eloquent way than Dr. Figueiredo, EQA sucks. It's always sucked. It will continue to suck until we reform and improve the quality of the material. Now, what we can actually do, I do have a couple questions on the more constructive side, which is our math numbers continue to struggle along with the province, kind of right around that primary to junior transition. And I note that you're looking at recruiting another literacy consultant, but is there some thought into an additional math consultant and catching that before they get to the grade 6 assessment? It seems like 3's not too bad, 6 is poor, 9's a disaster. So are we able to do something there? And then I guess the second piece is, can you elaborate on the detail around your PD plans for 7 and 8 and why that particular cohort is important to focus on?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're looking at a lot of different options. Last year was the first year with our Math Achievement Action Plan. So we feel that there's a good base of an approach with all of our schools. We've identified through the ministry their indication. We've identified a number of priority schools that our learning partners are focused on right now. Those priority schools have been identified as needing some additional support. So that's where our learning partners are focused right now. But we have other consultants that are available and are providing support to all of our schools in terms of math instruction. Specific to the grade 7 and 8 work, we recognize that that's a challenging transition point for students as they move from elementary schools into our high schools. And we just want to ensure that our math teachers at that level have a consistent approach, that they have the resources. So it's about bringing them together on that professional learning day and just making sure that they are aware of the language that we're using, the resources that we're using, as well as something as simple as the test-taking abilities, so that they're providing students with that opportunity to see an online assessment before they get to the EQAO test.
Just a very quick supplemental, just around the previously eligible OSSLT students. We're lagging behind the province, and we're less than half of those students retaking the test are successful. What are some of the additional supports that we're offering to those students to help them become successful in their second or third try?
Through you, Mr. Chair. It's a group that we spend a lot of time supporting. We recognize the results don't always demonstrate that. Within that group is also students who, for a number of reasons, whether they're multi-language learners, have been deferred. They will still be identified in that cohort as previously eligible, even if they wait a year before they actually write the test. So in a lot of cases, that's representation of us providing additional support to some students so that they're not writing the test before they feel they're able. So as much as, again, it may not be reflective in our numbers, students that aren't successful the first time they write the test, in some cases, they're looking at going into our OLC 4.0 course, so they can take the course rather than write the test again. And in some cases, they're supported through our student success teachers at the high school to do the course outside of their regular schedule, so it's not taking a full credit choice within their schedule.
Trustee Luke-Teach-Myers.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Yes, I'm going to kind of piggyback a little bit on Trustee Wood. It's the math, of course. You know, some of the results, and I know this is obviously not a new issue, are quite kind of, you know, concerning. So I'm looking here at the junior results. You know, we're a little bit above the province, but it's still, you know, pretty weak, obviously. Do we have a breakdown by school in our board? Is that would be interesting to see? And then additionally, you know, is there anybody in the province that is, you know, has cracked this, that is managing to get, you know, good solid results on math? And if they are, you know, is there something that we can copy, you know, get some advice, et cetera? And then maybe just more broadly, and maybe a bit of a silly question, but beyond COVID and the new curriculum, and, you know, what's the issue with the math? Because it does seem to be, you know, something that's persistent. Are we teaching too much theoretical math? Should it be more practical, day to day? Is it, you know, what are we kind of missing here? Because I mean, again, when you look at the results, they are, you know, to be polite, yeah, a little bit weak. Thank you.
I can start. So yes, we do have the breakdown school by school, so we can definitely look at that. Principals are normally very eager to see those results when they come out, so they're on all the school websites as well, so definitely, and we can share that data with you as well if you'd like. In terms of, yes, it is something we've been trying to crack for many years in terms of the grade 6 results. I know Dr. Figueredo could probably break this down even further. If you were to compare the grade 6 math report card results compared to the EQAO results, it would tell a different story. So that's one thing to always keep in mind. But the thinking questions, so there's thinking, application, and knowledge and understanding questions on EQAO, and that is where across the province we have to continue to dig deeper and focus on critical thinking, which is great because that's our theme this year, but not just our theme in terms of one of our global competencies, but we can go deeper into the math side pieces with that. So the breaking down, decomposing the question when it comes to doing that second or third step when answering a math question definitely gets more difficult in grade 6 as compared to grade 3. And in terms of your last question, there was a third part of your question, which I didn't write down, in terms of there's...
Yeah, so sorry. So it was just a general question related to kind of a bit of an open question. You know, where are we missing the mark with the math? Because I think it's always easy to kind of say, oh, you know, it's the students. But, you know, if you're consistently getting low results, it's not the students, it's you know, there's other things that at play.
Well, I just remembered your third question. It was about seeing where other boards across the province may have hit the mark. There are a couple, and we have reached out to them, so we're going to try and set up a meeting to say, what have you consistently been doing? There's not many, as you can see by the board, the provincial average, but yes, we want to hear the tricks and tips that other boards have used to be more successful on a more consistent basis. It's not just a one-off, so we will continue looking into that for sure. And going back to Trustee Whitta's question as well about the literacy consultant, I should have mentioned the board, we did hire an additional learning partner for math. So we had 4 last year, we have 5 this year. Because of the math action plan and the 11 priority schools, a lot of our 4 were deployed to those 11 schools. So we kind of needed another human to be able to go out and support the rest of the 60-some schools that also need support in math. So we did hire an additional staff for math as well.
Trustee Simpson?
As we look for the magic math bullet, as we have been trying to do for many, many years, my question is more for Dr. Figueiredo. Is there any way that EQAO can give us some disaggregate data so that we can have more information, so that we can further focus our efforts perhaps towards a particular math strand, perhaps towards some of those application skills, so that we can really zone in on where is exactly the area of difficulty that our students are having, and is there any kind of trend that we're having year to year? Because we keep searching, as I say, for the magic bullet, but maybe we just don't have enough information to actually achieve it.
Through you, Mr. Chair. EQAO does provide a mathematical strands report, and that does provide us with a bit more information as to what students find challenging. In particular, I can say for the 2024 result, but this has been the case even going back pre-pandemic, it is the algebra strand, which starting at the primary division can be challenging for students and then continues to be because it takes such a central component of the mathematics curriculum, followed by what's called the spatial sense strand at elementary, or what we would typically call geometry in the high school math courses.
Supplemental, and oops, I pushed my visual button by mistake instead of my microphone. I was just wondering if we are looking at those particular strands and those particular thought, like geometry and like algebra, do we have a focus on those particular strands that we need to be really pushing forward and maybe lightening the load in some of the other strands that we're doing better at, to see if it does make a difference in our next couple of years?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's exactly what we have been doing, and really the results haven't changed that much in terms of the challenges the students have had with strands, so we are focused on that, not at the expense necessarily of the other strands and the other areas of math that we need to bring to the students in terms of learning, but we have identified that, and that's certainly the communication that we have with schools is specifically what strands do we need to target, as well as the test-taking skills themselves. So those have been identified to us as areas that require attention, and that's certainly what we're concentrating on.
So I just have one comment, and it's a question as well as a comment. First, EQAO is one test, and we don't want to teach to the test. There is a curriculum, and it's put out, and it's reviewed by hundreds, if not thousands, of teachers and math department heads and principals and superintendents and directors. Are the questions asked differently? When I say that, are they asked in words rather than complete this problem? Is there a common denominator that it's a different way of asking the questions compared to the curriculum? I've never seen an AQA test, so
Well, lucky you. No. Through you, Mr. Chair. So just to remember, the EQAO is based on the curriculum. And so even though it's tested in grade 3, 6, and 9, it's actually a primary, junior, and a intermediate test. So it assesses the students from the grade 1, 2, and 3 curriculum, what they learned over the years. So your question in terms of, are the questions being asked differently? They're definitely more formal, and this is where we go back to the test readiness. So we're not necessarily teaching to the test, but we have to be sure our students are prepared that the first time they see a question like an EQAO, that isn't their first time seeing the question. We have to make sure that we're providing the PD to the educators that, you know, we need to ask the questions in the EQAO style, you know, but not certainly teaching to the test, but making sure that they understand that these are how the questions are formulated and what they look like and how to, like I said earlier, decompose the question. And there's a lot of work. You see students highlighting different parts of the question, and there's a lot of work that goes into that, which means there's a lot of work for us to ensure our teachers know how to decompose questions so that the students, it makes it easier for the students to answer.
Any other questions? Trustee Finn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation tonight, and you guys always do a great job at, you know, bringing the right data to the table, and obviously you can make great decisions with really detailed data. So thank you for sharing what you've shared today. Obviously, there's that discussion over controversy and debate. You know, while some teachers, parents have raised concerns over testing in general, you know, other ways it leads to, you know, maybe putting too much stress on the students themselves. And I know that we quickly talked about, you know, 3, 6, and 9. You know, at 3, it's reading, writing, and mathematics. And, you know, grade 6 is focused on reading, writing, and mathematics. And the grade 9 seems to focus more on mathematics, from what I understand. Are we applying too much pressure to the grade 9 students in the math area in general? And that could be a contributing factor. I don't have the answer. I don't know. Maybe it's just to the 3 that are on the panel tonight. And maybe just a secondary question for that. I don't know much about the office in general when it comes down to the quality and accountability office, but is there a regular, you know, time throughout the year where feedback is provided in order for them to maybe restructure how they offer this testing? Are there other ways that, you know, we could be offering, you know, this testing to our students?
Through you, Mr. Chair. First of all, just to address the math question in terms of student wellness, we've been working, our departments have been working with our school psychologists to look at that angle as well as it comes to both literacy and math, but certainly a focus on math in terms of where our results are to ensure that balance as well. What are we doing in terms of not only preparing students, but ensure that we're doing it in a way that's research-based, but also to just a question around even how to take a test and the psychology behind that in terms of the science of learning and the science of math. So we're exploring all of those different things at the same time. And I'm reminded of an EQAO presentation that happened here in the boardroom, sponsored by CSPA, and myself and a coordinator in the department got an opportunity to speak to somebody 2 years ago from EQAO, and certainly provided quite a bit of recommendations from our perspective to that individual. By times, there are opportunities to provide feedback, but it is an independent agency, and we can't infer too much into terms of what we feel they should be doing, but there are those discussions that are ongoing.
Thank you for the feedback.
How often does EQAO actually go back and take a look at the actual tests that they are providing? You know, how do they reevaluate themselves with these results, or due to these results?
So through you, Mr. Chair, and correct me if I'm wrong. So they typically have field questions. There's many questions throughout the year, throughout the test that aren't even assessed, but they're fielded so to know if they should use them again or that style question either later. So it is reviewed every year through field questions. And in terms of the process, that's my understanding in terms of how they do their self-assessments, more through field questions. Would that be correct? Yeah, so that's my understanding in terms of how they review the type of questions they ask and how they review themselves.
Seeing no more questions, thank you very much for your insightful presentation. Can I get a mover, please? Trustee Phelan. Seconder. Trustee Lukatek-Byers. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Student Success dated October 9, 2024, entitled EQAO be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 3, memo from the superintendent. Thank you. Memo from the Superintendent of Planning Facilities, 3 Lester B. Pearson School and St. Matthew's High School proposed attendance boundary revision consultation document. Welcome, Superintendent Valla. Mr. Baxter, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and pleased to be here and joined with our manager, Ian Baxter, manager of planning and construction. And further to the report or the plan that we put together for the 2024 capital plan, as you can recall, we've got some accommodation pressures across the city. And tonight we bring to you to forward a board on, we have 2 reports tonight. The first one is for the secondary attendance boundary review for Lester B. Pearson and St. Matthews. And Manager Baxter will be going through the details of the consultation plan that we have set in place.
Thank you, Superintendent Valla, and good evening, everyone. Through you, Mr. Chair, trustees have in front of them a memo requesting board approval for the commencement of a consultation process regarding a proposed revision to the attendance boundaries of Lester B. Pearson and St. Matthew High Schools, and for use of the included document as the basis for the receipt of public comment. Again, as Superintendent Valla mentioned, please note that this proposal is outlined in the board's draft 2024 capital plan, which was presented to trustees on June 25th. The revision is being proposed in order to assist with managing future accommodation pressures at Lester B. Pearson. Lester B. Pearson is located at 2072 Jasmine Crescent in the Beacon Hill South neighborhood and sits on a relatively small 10.5-acre parcel of land. The school serves students who reside in the eastern part of the former city of Gloucester, including Blackburn Hamlet and parts of Orleans. Over the past 5 years, Lester B. Pearson has experienced a steady increase in its enrollment. From 929 students in 2019 to over 1,100 for this September, an increase of approximately 170 or so students. The Lester B. Pearson building has a permanent pupil capacity of 876, resulting in a current utilization rate of 126%. In terms of permanent space, it is one of our smallest secondary schools alongside St. Pius X. The school has a 6-classroom porta-pack on site that assists with the provision of instructional space and also 5 standalone portables. As a result of larger incoming cohorts from its elementary feeder schools, enrollment at the school is projected to continue to grow in future years, an increase of close to 200 students over the next 5 years. These continued enrollment increases at Lester B. Pearson are not sustainable and require adding more portable classrooms to the site that can be accommodated. We are proposing a revision that would redirect elementary students living in the Good Shepherd attendance boundary from Lester B. Pearson to St. Matthew. These revised attendance boundaries would take effect for the 2025-2026 school year. Appendices B and C of the consultation document linked to tonight's memo provide maps that show the current boundaries of both Lester B. Pearson and St. Matthew, and those created under the proposed revision. In order to limit disruption, existing students who reside within the redirected boundary area and are already attending Lester B. Pearson would be provided with a one-time option to remain at the school, and these students would be eligible for transportation subject to meeting criteria. New secondary students to the system and those who have older siblings already attending Lester B. Pearson would be directed to St. Matthew. The population of St. Matthew is also increasing. Enrollment at the school on September 30th totaled 1,119 students, an increase of 58 students from the year before. The school is operating at 102% of its permanent pupil capacity. And in the next 5 years, this trend is expected to continue as a result of ongoing residential development within the school's attendance area, most notably south of Innes Road within the East Urban Centre. Enrollment at the school is projected to reach 1,379 students in 2029, a facility utilization rate of 126%. So this level of enrollment at St. Matthew can be accommodated within the school's detached 12-classroom porta-pack, and if necessary, with the placement of standalone portable classrooms. In addition to assisting with accommodation pressures at Lester B. Pearson, the proposed boundary revision would also assist with forward planning for the future opening of a third secondary school to serve students in the Orleans area. The board's 2024 capital plan identified the opening of a future Mare Bleu Catholic High School as a short-term requirement. A request for funding for the project was submitted to the ministry in September as part of its 2024-2025 capital priorities process. In that submission, a planned opening date of September 2029 was identified. This timing would align with the proposed revision we are discussing tonight by redirecting a portion of St. Matthew's attendance area to the new school and establishing sustainable long-term boundaries for existing area secondary schools, including St. Matthew. A public consultation process with potentially affected school communities and the larger public is proposed to take place over the next 4 months. This process will include the school communities of Lester B. Pearson, St. Matthew, and of course, Good Shepherd. We are planning to hold a local meeting with parents and guardians regarding the proposal at Lester B. Pearson High School on Wednesday, November 27th. In addition to notification from individual school principals, notice of the consultation and the meeting will also be communicated via regular board social media channels. A dedicated web page will be created to post supporting information and updates and to communicate with parents and guardians as well. Subject to the input that we received during the process, a recommendation report regarding the proposal contained within this document is scheduled to be brought forward to the board for approval at a meeting in late January 2025. If there are questions from trustees regarding the report or the consultation document, staff are here tonight to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Questions or comments? Trustee Moore and then Trustee Wood.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm curious. The new Mare Bleu High School, I looked through your appendix documents, you don't have it mapped off yet exactly where you think the high school might be, or where you think the attendance boundaries might be. So it's just an interesting piece of information people might want to sort of have an idea of when we're talking about all these changes, because Mare Bleu looks like it's going to be needed sooner rather than later.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we did not put the location. We do have a site that we own already, the board does. It's at the intersection of Brian Coburn Boulevard and Jerome Chouadin. And we did not identify that on the general location map, but that's certainly good input, and we'll consider doing that as we, maybe for the 27th, we'll put something together for the meeting. Thank you.
Trustee Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick questions. First of all, have we done an assessment of the busing and courtesy transportation impact that this will have? Or can you speak to that a little bit? And then secondly, if we approve this consultation process document, will the feedback portal go live for parents immediately, like after this meeting type of thing?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So once tonight ends, and if the recommendations for the consultation and the commencement of the consultation process occur, we begin the consultation right after, and we put together a Google survey form, and we provide that out to parents and guardians. So basically, the process for feedback begins immediately. In terms of transportation, we have not connected yet with OSTA in terms of the potential impact. We're beginning the consultation process, so that is something that we're going to look at as we move forward. But at a high level, I can tell you that the Good Shepherd boundary sort of generally includes Blackburn Hamlet, Chapel Hill South, parts of the East Urban Centre to the south of Chapel Hill South. Some parts of its boundary are closer to Lester B. Pearson, and certainly some parts are closer to St. Matthew. But that's something that we'll look at through the process.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee McEwen and Trustee Whitted. That the memorandum from the Superintendent of Planning Facilities dated October 9, 2024, entitled Lester B. Pearson High School and St. Matthew High School Proposed Attendance Boundary Revision Consultation Document be received, and the proposal contained therein form the basis of public comment, and the potentially impacted schools and the parent councils be advised of the proposal and the consultation process, and provided with the avenues to submit their feedback, and that the following the completion of the public consultation process, a recommendation regarding the proposal be brought back to the Board of Trustees for final decision. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. You know, it's not one cost through that whole thing. Gentlemen, welcome back. Chapel Hill Elementary School and St. Kateri Tekakwitha Elementary School proposed option area consultation document. Gentlemen.
Good evening again, Mr. Chair, through you. I'm pleased to bring forward another consultation review around the combination needs that we have in East End, particularly associated with Chapel Hill and St. Kateri. We have Manager Baxter here again tonight to go through the details of the recommendations for an option area and the consultation process that we're proposing. So take it from here, Manager Baxter.
Thank you, Superintendent Valla. So through you, Mr. Chair, trustees have in front of them a memo requesting board approval for the commencement of a consultation process regarding a proposed St. Kateri Tekakwitha and Chapel Hill Elementary School option area, and for the use of the included document as the basis for the receipt of public comment. Again, this proposal was outlined in the board's draft 2020 capital plan, which was presented to trustees in June. St. Kateri is currently the only designated elementary school for an ongoing development area called the East Urban Centre, located south of Ennis Road. This area is one of the larger growth areas in the city, with an estimated 9,700 homes planned at full build-out. Over the past 5 years, this new development has resulted in a steady increase to the school's enrollment, a circumstance which is projected to continue into the future. St. Kateri currently has an enrollment of 532 students in a building with a permanent capacity of 268 pupils, a utilization rate of just shy of 200%. The school requires the use of 10 portable classrooms on site currently to serve this level of enrollment. An option area is being proposed in order to assist with managing accommodation pressures at St. Kateri in advance of the opening of a future elementary school within the East Urban Centre. You'll recall that in June, the board received capital funding for the opening of a new elementary school in Mare Bleu, an area that is not far from the location of the proposed option area we are discussing. While a future study will ultimately determine the new school's boundary and the enrollment impact on St. Kateri, Based on the rapid growth that is happening and the location of the new school site, the new school's site in Mare Bleue, the larger impact will likely be to Our Lady of Wisdom Elementary School in Queenswood Heights. In the interim, without change, enrollment at St. Kateri over the next 5 years is forecast to reach 672 students by 2029, resulting in a utilization rate of 250% and an estimated need for 17 portable classrooms. Accommodating a student enrollment of this size at the school is not feasible and certainly not desired. To manage this situation, we are proposing to create an option area within that part of the current St. Kateri attendance area located south of Innes Road, the previously mentioned East Urban Centre. Please see appendices A and B in the consultation document attached to tonight's memo for the current boundaries of both St. Kateri and Chapel Hill, and for the boundaries that would result with the option area in place. Elementary school students residing in the proposed option area would have the ability to choose to attend either school, with eligibility for transportation subject to meeting criteria. With the option area in place, it is anticipated that over time, students would begin to choose to attend Chapel Hill instead of St. Kateri. This projected shift in enrollment would assist with reducing accommodation needs at St. Kateri over time. Under the revision, enrollment at St. Kateri is projected to increase at a more manageable rate, from a total of 494 students in 2023 to 570 in 2029. Enrollment at Chapel Hill under the proposal would increase more rapidly, from 201 students in 2023 to a projected 357 in 2029. At that time, the school's utilization rate would be 133%, with an estimated 4 portable classrooms required on site for instruction. These projected enrollments assume that 50% of future students residing in the proposed option area will choose to attend Chapel Hill. The remaining students would continue to choose St. Kateri, including younger siblings of upper grade students already attending the school. A public consultation to receive input from the school communities of St. Kateri and Chapel Hill and the larger public is proposed to take place over the next 4 months. Parents and guardians of these 2 schools will be notified of the process. We are planning to hold a local meeting with the 2 school communities regarding the proposal at Chapel Hill on Wednesday, November 20th. Notice of the consultation and the meeting will also be communicated to the public via regular board social media channels, and as previously mentioned, a dedicated webpage will also be created to post supporting information and updates. Following completion of the consultation process and the receipt of feedback, a recommendation report regarding the proposal contained within the consultation document is planned to be brought to the board for approval at a meeting in late January 2025. Both St. Kateri and Chapel Hill are part of the St. Matthew High School family of schools. Grade 6 students from both elementary schools are directed to St. Matthew for grades 7 to 12. There would be no impact to existing families of either elementary school with a proposed option area in place. Again, if there are questions from trustees regarding the report, staff are here tonight to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Trustee Malio and then Trustee Winnett.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So basically, what we are doing is we're laying the groundwork for the opening of the new high school and the new elementary school, with regards to boundaries, etc.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this particular change is related more to a future, as you mentioned, a future elementary school located within the East Urban Centre. Not as much to do with the future secondary school.
Follow up? The previous memo, I was thinking of that one in particular, so the change recommended, I know I should have asked it earlier, but the change recommending there, we're hoping to line up everything for the new high school.
Through Mr. Chair, you're right on both counts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, just Would like a little bit more information on the concept of an option area, because it sounds like we're banking on 50% of the people to choose to go to the other school, and if those people don't choose, we haven't solved our enrollment pressures issues. So I'm just curious why we're proposing an option area versus proposing a redirect of students in this case.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I think in this case, we're proposing the option area certainly to limit disruption to existing families, and again, to lay the groundwork for that future school in the East Urban Centre. Option areas are tricky, and we don't necessarily, planning staff don't necessarily love to put those into place, permanent sort of option areas. And certainly this is not looked at as a permanent one. It's a permanent one in advance of a future school being opened beyond the next 5 years. But we don't like option areas at times because it is difficult to project student movement with a lot of certainty. There are 255 students attending St. Kateri from the East Urban Centre. We certainly don't expect a huge movement of existing students who are at St. Kateri. Certainly there could be some movement in terms of kindergarten, grade 1 younger, with younger siblings choosing to move over and make that switch at Chapel Hill. But I think we think that in this case, an option area is the right solution versus a block move or a redirection or a relocation of students from one school to another.
Just a quick follow-up. What is the physical limitations of both of those schools? Do we have the same level of ability to add, excuse me, portables or any temporary additions to the school?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Chapel Hill site is, I believe, it's in the 7-acre range. It's a big site with an adjacent park. The St. Kateri site also is relatively big with 6-acre site, I believe, about very close to 6 acres. The issue, of course, is that we've got 10 portables on site at St. Kateri, and we're really running out of the ability to put additional portables on site without significant infrastructure cost. Both of the schools are the same size in terms of permanent, pupil capacity, 268. They were built, I think, a few years apart, and are of similar size. So I think we're confident that the site at Chapel Hill will provide us with some flexibility to add portable classrooms and hopefully sort of defray some of those pressures, future pressures that we know are coming in terms of the growth and new residential development in the EUC.
Trustee Simpson?
Just a curiosity question. When I look at the map of where Page Road and Innes Road meet, there's a little section in there, Silver Birch Creek Crossing and Longleaf. It's sort of a self-contained area, and I'm assuming that they probably go to Good Shepherd if they're there. Is there going to be some looking at that whole area because it's very self-contained? Traditionally in the past, we've really held Innes Road as sort of a boundary, but now as we're looking at the absolute need for the Mare Bleu School, it just seems to me that very little self-contained area is much closer to a Mare Bleu School or Chapel Hill instead of bringing them all the way over to Good Shepherd. It's just a reflection. I'm assuming that area is a Good Shepherd area.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So that's Chapel Hill South, what I termed sort of Chapel Hill South. It is part of Good Shepherd. I don't know if I would look at that area for, again, we're going to, at some point in the future, we're going to set the boundary for that new Mare Bleu School. Certainly look at a number of things. I think that area, though, possibly would be looked at when a new East Urban Centre school is funded and opened in the future. That's certainly, that would be where I think proximity would be looked at. Good Shepherd versus the EUC elementary school site.
Trustee Coburn?
Thank you for your presentation. I just, a couple of comments, and I'm not sure if there's a question in there, but anyway, the comment is I was surprised at the attendance at Chapel Hill being as low as it was when I saw this. I'm quite familiar with both sites, and I think the option area that was suggested is actually a good, I think, strategy for that area. I'm very familiar with both those schools in that area, and I think if I was a parent at St. Catherine and I had a 200% utilization rate and I saw the 80% utilization rate at Chapel Hill, I think it would be enticing to me as a parent to maybe look at that. My question, I guess, is to that, have we seen parents to this point at St. Catherine look to do that? Have we had pressure from parents to do that, or is this just something we're initiating on our own?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't know the numbers in terms of how many kids in that East Urban Centre. I mentioned 255 currently attending St. Catherine. I don't know what, I'm certainly would assume that some are choosing to attend Chapel Hill on a cross-boundary transfer. But anecdotally, we certainly have heard a few comments, in terms of the desire to potentially attend Chapel Hill, and we've certainly heard from a few folks that, obviously St. Catherine with the number, it's a small school, 10 portables, access to common areas, pressure on the school. We've certainly have heard that piece as well. So.
Trustee Moore, then Trustee Whittaker.
Thank you very much. My comment is really, when you go in for your meeting, be prepared for questions about the high school again. Will one of these choices limit their ability to go to the new high school? Probably not, but those are your answers. And what EDP and transportation and all the little things, childcare, that are going to be available at the other school too, because that's if you've got a kindergarten kid you're looking for, right? So just be ready. I think you got a good idea here. Hope it works for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, real solution, you could just send them all to my area, which has got a lot of empty schools down in Kitchissippi Bay, but that's a whole different discussion. I want to pick up on something real quick that Trustee Simpson mentioned, which is that little area that is outside the option area. Is the thinking not to include that additional sort of longleaf creek crossing area in the option area because it would pull too many kids away from Good Shepherd and create potential deficit there, or like was there a thought in not extending the option area over to encompass that other half of the neighborhood?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to be honest with you, in terms of looking at those kinds of things, right now Good Shepherd is operating relatively comfortably with about a 90% utilization rate, maybe 85 to 95, it's in that range. So pulling kids away from the school at this point is not really necessary, and so we really didn't consider it. But I think it could be something, depending on how things progress, let's say over the next 5 to 7 years with enrollment at Good Shepherd, it could be something that we could look at, again, with that East Urban Centre school in the future.
Trustee Moore. Trustee McEwen.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. You're going into an elementary school in the evening to consult with parents. What is your plan? Because parents, what is the structure of the evening, or what do parents have? Are you coming in with a presentation, or
Through you, Mr. Chair. So typically in these sort of consultation processes, staff does sort of a presentation, and then we receive questions from parents. Any questions or concerns, any comments, any feedback, and then we sort of move into, let's call it more of an open house, where for anyone who may not want to ask a question in that forum, they have staff that they can speak to individually. That's typically been our process. We've been thinking that it might be more this kind of, not necessarily the previous one at Lester B. Pearson, but with this one, we were thinking maybe an open house might be more conducive, but it really depends a little bit. But that's typically been our format, and I think staff will get together and have a discussion about what might work best.
Thank you, because being in an elementary school, yeah, I'm thinking that the open house type thing might be a good idea.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, I think you had a question about the time. 7 o'clock or so is our standard time.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your presentation. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Trustee McEwen? And Trustee Phelan? The memorandum for the Superintendent of Planning and Facilities dated October 9, 2024, entitled Chapel Hill Elementary School and St. Kateri Tekewitha. Thank you very much. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 5, memo from the Superintendent of Human Resources re class size compliance. Superintendent Keeley, welcome.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I am pleased to share with the Board of Trustees this evening that the Ottawa Catholic School Board has met the ministry compliance in regards to class size. Once again this year, our board has experienced significant growth for the 2024-25 school year, with approximately 4.5% since last year. This brings our student enrollment over 50,000 students. Yay. As of the end of September 25th, our enrollment was 51,142 students. With this increased enrollment, we have added approximately an additional 135 teachers, as well as 29 registered early childhood educators to support this increased enrollment. This increased staffing is a requirement for the board to meet the Ministry of Education class size requirements, which I'll highlight. So for kindergarten, the average class size is 26 students, of which 10% can exceed the cap for specific reasons. Primary classes, grades 1 to 3, the average class size is 20. 90% of the classes must be at 20 or fewer, and 10% of these classes may have between 21 to 23 students. Any combined grade 3-4 classes also has to have a maximum size of 23 and cannot exceed that number. Junior classes in grades 4 to 6, the average class size is 24.5 with no class cap. Grades 7 and 8, again, the average class size is 24.5 with no class cap. When we move to high school, the average class size is 23 with no class cap. So please note that these are average class sizes based on all classes across the system, grades being respected. Please note that there are also different reporting timelines for compliance between elementary and secondary. So kindergarten through grade 8, we must reach compliance by the end of September of the beginning of the school year. And for grades 9 to 12, we must reach compliance by June of each year. So we are pleased to share that the OCSB has met compliance requirements for both K to 8 in September of 2024, as well as in grades 9 to 12 for June of 2024. And I'll just take a couple of moments and highlight our numbers. So in kindergarten, our average class size is 24.59 with a total of 252 classes this year. In primary, grades 1 to 3, our average class size is 19.71 with a total number of 487 classes. For grade 3-4 split, our average number is 17.53, and we have 15 grade 3-4 splits across the system. Our junior panel of grade 4 to 6, average class size is 24.44 with a total of 432 classes. Grades 7 and 8, we're at 24.07 average class size with a total number of 332 classes. And in grade 9, our average class size was 22.39 with a total of 2,902 classes. I also have the total number of e-learn courses offered by grade. You can see there was 180, and those were increased last year to support the high school requirement for having 2 online courses to fulfill graduation requirements. So I would like to take this opportunity to extend my gratitude and thanks to the team in planning facilities that have done an excellent job with the enrollment projections, our finance team to ensure we remain on budget, and of course our HR team who support the increased staffing in schools and ensuring that we do reach compliance within the timelines. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to respond to any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you very much. Trustee Simpson.
Well, this is my question that I seem to ask every year. I'm always very concerned with some of our suburban schools, which are burgeoning, and as we've just discussed, they have a lot of portables, and then we have some other schools where they have smaller enrollment, which means that, for instance, there are kindergarten classes with 31 kids, and there are other classes with out caps that also have high numbers. So I just guess I want to ask the percentage of classes, or what are we looking at some of our bigger schools, at some of these big class sizes, specifically in kindergarten and junior classes?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I can't tell you a junior or largest class size when we were hitting compliance was 34 in the junior panel. There were a few classes across. It's not where they land. Sometimes it's not always the bigger schools. As if we do have to hit compliance, sometimes those are the schools that actually get the additional classes because there's multiple classes that benefit from having an added class. There are a few kindergarten classes that are over 29, not that many. We do look at continuous enrollment, and if those numbers continue to decline, then we speak with finance, and there is opportunity sometimes later during the year to add a class. But normally we try and keep the kindergartens at 29, unless there's our big impediment right now is when we add a new class, 50% of it has to be French. So we have to be able to find a French teacher as well to open that class. But there are not a lot that are over 29. I'm not sure if that answered your question entirely.
It does answer my question, but I guess my concern is still out there that when we're starting to look at those numbers, and we're very interested in ensuring that we have early literacy programs going on. I know we can't do anything about it, but I just raise it as a continuing concern.
Trustee Warren.
Thanks, through you, Mr. Chair. It'd be nice to see kind of more of a deeper dive on this, more of a scaling effect where it shows the high end and the low end. The average is great, but some classes I know, for example, in St. Joe's, the classroom sizes are large. And I know we have no cap size when it comes to the grade 4 to 6s all the way up to grade 12. But do we have a best practice, or do we have a guideline that we kind of follow? Is 30, 40, what's our magic number for not exceeding a certain number on classroom sizes?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a good question. I would love to have a magic number. We don't have a magic number per se. When principals look at their staffing, especially at high schools, you have significant number of classes. Their staffing allocations are based on their enrollment and students who take the 8/8 classes. So if they do have a large class, it means that the principal has chosen to increase a particular class to benefit potentially a smaller class. Sometimes, or what happens is when they do their program, kids filter into all one section and then they have to manually adjust it. That for secondary, they address semester 1 to begin with. Semester 2, sometimes it takes them through semester 1 to address some of those issues in semester 2. At high school as well, there's sometimes a lot of changing of classes within the 2 weeks, and things then begin to settle down. Historically, from my experience when I was a principal, we always looked at, some of the classes, some of the classes in grade 12 might be larger to start because we know they're shopping around for some of their options. It just really depends on who you have on staff and what the needs are of the school as far as your students. Normally, if I were to put out a ballpark number, like I said, at junior we kept it at 34. At a high school, really, we don't like to see going much higher than that, but I'm not going to say there's not a class of 35 at high school sitting somewhere. I would have to look into that data for you and get back.
To that point, though, I guess it's two-parters. A is you're saying the principal makes the decision of the class size based on the needs of the school. And two, physically, there's a certain limit that a classroom can physically handle a certain amount of people before it becomes overpopulated. I'm sure you probably don't have that number, but having 34 and above in a classroom just seems like it becomes overpopulated and uncontrollable for a teacher to kind of help the students holistically, not just making them a cohort and teaching them one style. Like I feel like it becomes overburdened for the teachers to be able to assist the students if the number is just too high.
I appreciate the comment. I understand that. I will also say that in high schools, there's many different classrooms of different sizes. Again, some are specialty classrooms, such as technology areas that we do have to have caps on for safety reasons. There are also other classrooms that tend to be larger than some others. So again, principals make those decisions at the time, based on the needs of the students and the courses that they're offering and what's being selected. But your point is definitely taken.
Trustee Moore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. For grades 4 to 8, there's 764 classrooms. Could we have the numbers of classrooms that are over 30, please, and the geographical breakdown? Would that be possible? And for high schools, would it be possible to know in an English class, which is required for graduation, how many students are in each class? We hear about the classes that are over 30. I think it's good to know, everyone to see, and sort of the geographical distribution of that. Maybe some schools don't have classes over 30 in English. Maybe some do. But we don't know any of that as a group.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can take that back and see what we can get for you.
If you could either send it to me or send it to all trustees when you have the answer. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Warren and Trustee Alito. That memorandum to the Superintendent of Human Resources dated October 2nd, 2024, entitled Class Size Compliance be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 8, memo from the Associate Director of Business Affairs, Trustee Honorary for 2024-25. Welcome, Superintendent Humans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just noticing the note from a previous presentation. Through you, Mr. Chair. When asked a question, it's Keith. So the memo before you is the required annual approval for the trustee honorarium for the upcoming period November 15th, 2024 to November 14th, 2025. These calculations are in accordance with the ministry regulation and are based on two components. The first component of the pay includes a base amount per trustee, and of course there's a top-up amount for the chair and the vice chair. The second component is an enrollment amount, and so those enrollments are calculated on the enrollment change retroactively for the budget to budget numbers. So it compares the 2022-23 increase to 2023-24, and that's what provides for the increase on these honorariums. Overall, it results in an average increase of 2.25% at a macro level, which equates to 2% for the chair and the vice chair, and 2.3% for individual trustees. It is fully funded by the ministry through the core education funding, previously known as the GSNs. I would be happy to take any questions.
Just to clarify, this is a prescripted formula that comes up with these amounts. We're not giving ourselves raises. This is what is described by the province and the Education Act.
That is correct, Mr. Chair. It is prescribed by regulation in a very prescriptive calculation, yes.
As it was last year when we got a decrease. Any questions or comments? talk about their pay, they're not interested. Can I have a mover, please? Trustee Lukatek Myers. Seconded by Trustee Coburn. That the memorandum from the Associate Director of Business Affairs dated October 9, 2024, entitled Trustee Honorary for 2024-2025 be received, and that the following trustee honorary amounts for the period November 15, 2024 to November 14, 2025 be approved. Chairperson, $21,004. Thank you. I wasn't coughing yet. Do you want me to finish it? No. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. There's no new business. There's no new some motions. Is there new business? No new business. I'm missing something here. No. Can I get a move for the action report of September 24, 2024, please? Trustee Moore and Trustee McEwen. That the action report covering the period of September 24, 2024 be received. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Administrative announcements.
I have no administrative announcements today, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I need a mover for the bewitching hour, please. Trustee Melito. And Trustee McEwen. That the regular board meeting of October 15, 2024 be adjourned at 9:02 p.m. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Trustee Simpson, Trustee Phelan. Have a safe trip.